everyone? Jordan, Lance, Uncle Matt here. We just got done with Spider-Man No Way Home. This is going to be our little review. Spoilers ahead, most likely, so turn away now. You've been warned. Go.
Okay. My thoughts. One, yeah, terrific. You got every Spider-Man villain that you wanted back. Missing Tobey Maguire and the Rhino. What is that guy's name? He's James Gandolfini? No, that's the guy that played in Sopranos. Either way, best, of course, Willem Dafoe has to be Green Goblin. The voice, the Goblin laugh. You had your redemption scene with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, where he gets to deal with, because he never had that third movie after Gwen Stacy died. So you got to save MJ at the end in the proper way by cradling her first and then stopping the momentum, and he was redeemed in that way. And apologies to Andrew Garfield. I thought he was the worst Peter Parker Spider-Man, but when you get them all three together, you can see the differences in the way they played the character, right? So Tom Holland is the young, enthusiastic, hopeful Spider-Man. By the end of the third movie, of course, Tobey Maguire's been through so much that he's the seasoned veteran Spider-Man. And then Andrew Garfield is that funny, jokey Spider-Man that uses his humor to hide the pain of the death of his Uncle Ben, of the death of Gwen Stacy. And he's actually the loneliest Spider-Man. Because when you gotta think, in his universe, all he has is Aunt May. There's no team, there's no Happy, there was no Iron Man to see him along, there was no Avengers. And at the end, it was never resolved what happened with him and his Harry. The only point that I wish that they had done more, there's two things. One, keep the Goblin mask. I mean, it's just so iconic. He shatters it early in the scene. You got the Dafoe voice, you got the Dafoe action, you just need the Goblin mask. Number two, when Tobey says that, my best friend tried to kill me and he died in my arms, I would have liked Andrew Garfield to say, is your best friend Harry Osborn? Because he says in the second Spider-Man ASM movie that that's my best friend. Again, the highlights of it were they kept everybody. I mean, even had Thomas Hayden Church. I wasn't sure if they couldn't get him because most of the movie's CG'd as a Sandman, but in the end he turns back to Thomas Hayden Church. They got a redemption of Jamie Foxx's Electro, where by him getting his body back, he got rid of that weird schizophrenic attitude he had, and at the end he gives up and realizes that hey, I'm being seen. It was all in my brain, and you're a good person. He has a redemption for everyone. And again, another really great thing is the Alfred Molina Doc Ock, the redemption. Because the only thing, I just rewatched the original trilogy last night, is the burning out of his regulation ship. And other than that, he was a terrific, great guy. So once that was fixed, and he saw Peter again, he goes, "You're all grown up. You're great." Norman had that weakness, that instability, right? But you get to see Molina back normal. The other thing I didn't understand was why Sandman was against them in the apartment, but was teaming up with them at the end. I didn't understand that, but it had a great closing point, and I'm glad they didn't kill off Tobey Maguire because he gets stabbed in the back. I was like, are they going to just kill him off? Because that's ridiculous, and he has so much to return to. But again, and then the perfect thing about Marvel Studios' handling of this is the interactions between the Spider-Man, especially when they try to explain what the Avengers are, and then also how they try to ask weird questions, like you would ask an older brother about how he's generating these webs. Because they look at him and they talk to him like you would talk to your older brother or your younger uncle, and it was just terrific. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I mean, I can't say no. Anything else?
About the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, I heard the rumor. I like my mask. I heard a rumor that originally they were actually going to kill off Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but they had to go and film reshots because of Kevin Feige. Because I heard that they were wanting to use him in something like Secret Wars or something. They want to reuse him again.
I mean, it's just dynamic and magical, their connection, this is not a one-off thing. You have to have it because every one of these characters, and the key story about the early Spider-Man, why he never joined the Fantastic Four until later, and they made him join the Avengers for a little bit, but originally, right, he was a solo character,
all the time solo.
And he had no one ever to really count on except for Human Torch sometimes in the team-ups. He'd go to the FF for help. Sometimes he wouldn't get help, but most of the time he was struggling on his own to pay his rent, to do it. No one else knew what it was like to sacrifice like he did. And here you have all three Spider-Man that lost people, come from lower middle class backgrounds, incredibly intelligent, and they have this bond immediately because of their shared experience. And that's something that you cannot relate in any other Spider-Man with any other Spider-Man.
I think they did a lot of foreshadowing in this series. I think like for one, like the whole Black Spider-Man. You know, they're gonna eventually release Miles Morales.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is with them telling Ned about you know the Goblin and everything like that. I think that foreshadows Hobgoblin later on in the future. That's what I think, because they really emphasized about the whole "I'm not going to be your enemy."
Well, here's the thing though.
Or your
He said
villain.
your best friend tried to, or whatever. So it kind of makes like Flash Thompson is going to be Venom again. The
Oh, I hope not. I hate
you know, that guy could be Venom. And
Yeah.
then also it could be Ned, right?
No,
No,
I
it's-
think that leads more to Secret Wars. Like
Yeah.
you know, Spider-Man's gonna get that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then the character
Yeah.
he's from here, Hawaii.
Yep.
Jacob Babylon.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Yeah.
He's lost about 100 pounds, so he's on halfway through a Marvel
Makeover.
beef up
Mm.
Marvel diet. So he's probably very soon going to be ripped because you know they're the largest, most powerful movie studio on the planet. They have the resources to get him in the shape he needs, and he's going to be Hobgoblin.
Yeah, I'm guaranteeing. I think that he's gonna definitely
Yeah.
they're gonna do a
And
Hobgoblin.
they should bring Garfield back. I never gave Garfield a shot. Actually, same thing. I've watched the first 2 ASM movies in the theater. The second ASM movie, I rewatched last night, and he actually is terrific in his own way. Like, you know, he's that ultimate Spider-Man witticisms. He has more witticisms in those 2 movies than Tobey Maguire does and Tom Holland does in their respective Spider-Man movies. And he still has that jokey banner.
I think they also like did a really good job at making Tom Holland Spider-Man like a real complete Spider-Man now, because he finally got that that Uncle Ben moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of got rid of his childish innocence.
I
and
was
everything
always
now.
assuming they were going to do a flashback. So there's no Uncle Ben in the MCU.
No, I don't think so. It
think
doesn't
so,
look
yeah.
like it. Doesn't
So
look like
it's
Uncle
it's
Ben
very
in there.
strange because classic relationship is Ben's younger brother is Richard Parker, who is
Peter's dad.
Peter's dad. So Aunt May is never actually blood related to him in the other movies and in most Marvel Comics continuity, right? It just happens they never had kids. They're spies, Mary and Richard Parker. They die. They leave Peter with Ben, and they raise him. And so that's why they're all named Parker, and that's why.
But
That's how
also
they're all-
tampering with the whole thing of reality of Spider-Man and everything, and the heroes and whatnot, and the villains. I wonder like what's gonna actually change in like Tobey Maguire's universe now.
Yeah, they can
And,
revisit it anytime.
Like it's crazy. They can actually go back and do something else with the Spider-Man.
Yeah, uncontrolled auto octopus arms is a hero, right?
Yep.
Flint Marko is a hero, basically, right? He's always felt guilty. You could probably get him to help Spider-Man. You've changed Electro too, to
Normal.
calm him down,
Yeah.
normal, not mentally ill again. The one you can't trust is the Goblin, but you always have to have the Goblin bad.
Yep.
He's the Joker to Batman, you know what I mean? He's Lex Luthor to Superman,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he's Red Skull to Captain America. He is the key thing. And I'm glad they kept it in by having Ned Leeds as the best friend, because I know they overdid it to death in the first 2 Spider-Man franchises, but I mean, that's that great, like, Spectacular Spider-Man 200 by Sal Buscema and, I don't know, I forget who writes it, maybe Dick Giordano? I don't know, but it's that Peter's best friend is Harry, and it's his, half the time his worst enemy, you know what I mean? That looping boomerang, so. I don't know, can they hear us? Got
Yeah,
anything
maybe.
else?
For me, there was a famous scene in I forget what it was, but Iron Man in the comics at one point tells Peter, use your unused super brain to do something. And this was a great example of all the Spider-Mans getting together and getting a chance to use their super brains.
Right.
I
Because
like the fact that they did the meme part.
yeah,
all
they did. They
like,
kind of pointed at each other.
other.
Yeah, it was very meta. There was some scenes that were extremely meta, talking about a black Spider-Man, of course,
Yeah.
mentioning Miles.
That's how you can see the difference in the Marvel studio ways of things. One, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is way more mature for his years, better to coordinate because he has all these other superheroes in the universe. But 2, it's those great moments where where Ned calls to Peter and they all start talking to each other and they're like, "You mean him? You mean him?"
That was great.
And then and then that scene when they're battling, and Andrew Garfield is the most blasé but kind of like jokey to hide his pain Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That the lowest confidence Spider-Man. So he's like, what do you mean? I'm not Spider-Man 2? Oh wait, I'm Spider-Man 2. Wait. And then he becomes Spider-Man 3 at the end.
Yeah.
And then
But the fact they call "You're amazing,"
Yeah.
you're amazing. Like
And
that's
then-
the name of his movie. It's
and then-
Amazing Spider-Man.
and
You're
then-
And how he
amazing.
said, "Oh, I need that. I needed that."
yeah, and that's
Because
another older brother.
he's always the
unit.
Spider-Man who gets crapped on all
Yeah,
the time.
older brother moment, and then he's
Yeah.
like, I never fought an alien. He's like, dude, I suck.
Yeah.
But you gotta think, when it comes to like power-wise villains, like Electro's probably the most powerful spider villain. Him or Sandman.
Yep.
Half. Like, I'm gonna go with Electro is more powerful than Sandman, and yet Garfield fought Electro first, and his version of the Green Goblin in the same movie.
Yep.
So there's that to be said.
What else? When the other two Spider-Mans were showing up, I literally said, I can't take this anymore. It was just getting to that point where it was so good.
Yeah.
I just couldn't take it already. It was so good.
Nah, it's an emotional response,
Yep.
Because I rewatched the original trilogy last night and Amazing Spider-Man 2, and the trilogy I really watched only in the theaters with you guys growing up once, and linking them together and having that 6.5 hours of that arc of growth for the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and to have him as this solid, easygoing, wiser, older Spider-Man after all the ups and downs of those 3 movies that I watched back to back. And the last scene is Harry dying, right?
Yeah.
And him and MJ reconciling in his 3rd movie. And it's just really a great moment that ties up the circle for me, because you see, it's okay for him, because in those movies he goes ups and downs, they're breaking up, and, Uncle Ben dies, they revisit again in the 3rd movie, flashback scenes where Thomas Hayden Church shoots him, and he's always, it's never secure for him until the end of the 3rd movie, and when he steps in the light, he's that secure Spider-Man for the rest of them.
But doesn't this movie kind of put like a good bookend in all of the 3 Spider-Man
Absolutely.
movies?
Yeah.
Like No Way Home literally is No Way Home for like this the Marvel MCU Peter Parker. His own's gone.
I mean, he confirms he's still with MJ. He confirms his life is good. He confirms that he's made it to a good age. He even had no rage against Dr. Octopus when he realized that he was the fixed Dr. Octopus. He's like Otto, and he's like Peter, right? And then secondly, for the most emotionally turmoil and alone of the Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, he comes in, he knows that even though not in the same universe, he has a family, he has brothers there.
Yeah.
He had the ability to save MJ. He had the ability to save Max. Because in the original Amazing Spider-Man 2, he kills Electro. Electro explodes and dies. After he feels bad for him.
Right.
So he has this redemption where he cures Max, has that heart-to-heart for him with it for a minute. He saves MJ where he couldn't save his Gwen, and he has that family. Because there's no Avengers in his universe.
So it's almost as if this was like his Amazing Spider-Man 3.
In a way,
yeah.
on these, yeah.
I mean, definitely. And he's quicker with the jokes than all of them.
So good. He is good, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I really got to give it up to him. I mean, it was really for someone that's been a fan for so long. So it's very hard for a lot of people watching this video, if anybody even watches this video. But we grew up reading comics, so our whole lives we were disappointed with comic book movies until 13, 14 years ago, and it all changed. And this whole world is obsessed with these characters. We were obsessed with these kids. Where I had to hunt to find X-Men t-shirts when I was 12. Where I had to hunt to find superhero merchandise. Now it's everywhere in Target. There's people loving and growing up with these characters that we love as kids. And it's magical for them.
Can't wait till X-Men gets in the MCU because Fox did a terrible job.
Hey, if Feige can make Ant-Man cool, which blew my mind as a lifelong comic fan, that when they were going to make an Ant-Man movie, and that's one of the best.
It's
Top
very-
4 is
absolutely
Ant-Man
good.
1, and it's just like
Really? That high?
top 5 at least.
Okay.
Well, for me, I'm such a classic Cap fan. First
true,
Avenger is my favorite, more than the
I
second one.
like this movie. I think this is my favorite comic movie now. This No Way Home.
Just-
This is my favorite.
Again, like, last thing I want to say is going through all of these movies, like, and watching them prior to watching the movie today, and seeing the other 2 Spider-Mans and their ups and downs, this moment of safe and peace that they fought through solo in those movies. Because we have these other corresponding movies where, Spider-Man can lean on Doctor Strange, he can lean on Iron Man, he can lean on these other people. But the 2 ASM movies, Andrew Garfield has a terrible time. The 3 original trilogy, it finally becomes right for Peter at the end of the 3rd movie. And it's great to see that 15, 20 years later in his timeline, in his universe, he's safe. He's set. He can be this older brother, this reassurance. And then you finally get that cathartic moment where Garfield's crying when he saves MJ,
I'm so
he
thankful
has
that
base.
Sony decided to not kill off Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
could they?
So smart.
That would have been a terrible idea.
It's just, I guess it's their love of playing that character and them studying for that character so much. Their chemistry was amazing. Like, I mean, people are good actors, but the chemistry was amazing. The dialogue was amazing. But I attribute it to them studying that character, because for each of them, they probably had to read bunches of comic books, like study the character, feel those moments, and then here they had. It was probably easy for them to step back into the character and step back into those relationships.
So good. I cried a lot.
Yeah,
I cried
it's
a lot.
emotionally draining.
I clapped a lot. Absolutely go see this movie.
Okay. Well, sorry it took so long.
No. Had to be said.
What's the name of the channel?
MJRL Hobby Stuff.
What's the name of the Instagram?
MJ Ryan, he's out there. He's going to be in a video soon. RRR Ryan R is going to be in our video soon. So stay in touch. And Lance. MJRL Hobby Stuff.
And follow me at Ahoy Toy Box, but it has nothing to do with this video. All right. Goodbye, guys. Thanks.
Excelsior! We miss you, Stanley.
Okay. Wait till these 5 people that watch this video watch.